Starting today, in about 2 hours, many of our favorite voice actors, Crispin Freeman, Jennifer Hale, Steve Bloom, are going on strike against game development companies. You might be wondering what this means, and why. Now, I can't do the cause justice, like the ones actually involved in the strike are doing, but I'll try to summarize some of the points they are striking for. I'll have a few links in the description to help you research what's going on, too. Now, I think that I'm in a unique position to comment on this because of my involvement with the indie game company Nick 3 Entertainment, as well as other indie studios I have worked as a freelancer for. One of the major aspects of Nick 3's games are voice acting. We might not be making Call of Duty, Final Fantasy, or Dynasty Warriors, that's for sure, but we make the extra effort to include voice work in many of our games. Why? Because in this modern day and age, even indie games seem lacking if they don't at least have narration. Having good, high-quality voice work can make a good game great, or even a not-so-great game seem kinda okay. At the same time, having no voice work, or arguably worse, poor voice work, in an otherwise beautiful game diminishes the whole property. That's why, as someone who has worked on both sides of the mic, as a voice actor and as a producer, I'm with the striking actors, because performance matters. Now, before I go any further, let me just give the caveat that I am not a member of the SAG-AFTRA union. I am not striking, and I do not work on union-contracted jobs. That being said, it doesn't preclude me from being an ally of these union workers fighting to get the same recognition that workers in incredibly similar fields receive, such as safe working environment and fair compensation. Essentially, the voice actors want 3 major things, near as I understand it. 1. Safety protections. They want to be able to limit high-intensity studio sessions to 2 hours instead of the usual 4-hour sessions, but still get paid a normal daily wage. You see, the way being a professional union voice actor works, generally, is you do a 4-hour recording session, and you are paid for the session. The standard rate of pay is about $825, roughly. Not bad for 4 hours of work, I'll admit. But remember that most of these studios are also in major cities, like Los Angeles, New York, Toronto, Houston, etc. So $825 doesn't go nearly as far as it might where I'm at. So, essentially they want to be able to limit strenuous voice work, such as screaming like a Dragon Ball Z power-up, doing fighting key eyes and the likes. I've worked with an actor who had to turn down a part in one of our games because they did a big screamy project and lost their voice for 2 weeks. I've also worked with an actress who had to have throat polyps surgically removed. Thankfully, she was able to continue working a few months after that. Another safety aspect they're demanding is having stunt coordinators in place on various performance capture jobs. Performance capture is where they actually have the voice actor doing the motion capture for either the character's actual movement or at least the facial expressions. A lot of times, they're actually doing the stunts in the scenes of your favorite games, while in a mocap suit, and apparently without a stunt coordinator. This is a good way to get yourself hurt, or even permanently maimed. 2. Secondary compensation. The second part they're fighting for is secondary compensation. This is basically getting a bonus if the project you worked on performed well. And they have a cap on it that basically means if they do voice work on a game and it sells 8 million copies, they get paid a $30,000 some odd bonus. Let me just tell you that EA's CEO got $1.5 million bonus, and he's probably making a lot more than $825 a day. 3. Transparency. Imagine walking into your job and being given a list of parts to assemble, but not being told what you're assembling them for. You've got a half-dozen parts you're supposed to weld together, and it might be a car, it might be a boat, or it might be a nuclear bomb. That's what a lot of these folks are dealing with. One of the actors interviewed said he was a main character for Fallout 4, and didn't know it until the game was released. Knowing your part, and how your character is involved in the complex chemistry of the game's world, makes it much easier to play your role more efficiently, and to make the character more believable and relatable. Also, imagine you were a voice actor and you were being brought in to play a character for what you thought was just a regular AAA gaming title called Project Repo. But once the project is released, you find that the game is hardcore political propaganda for a position or political party you were vehemently opposed to. The actors just want transparency. They've been forced to sign non-disclosure agreements anyway, so they're not allowed to reveal any information about the project, no matter what. Imagine if Sir Patrick Stewart showed up on the set of X-Men, and everything was just green screened, and there were no other actors on set, and he was given just Professor X's lines. and told to act out the movie for 4 straight hours. Also, he'd need to be there for the next 10 days to complete his role, too. Because this is another aspect of transparency. Many of these actors are forced to either accept or turn down a role without knowing how many sessions would be necessary to complete the role. They don't know if they're a side character who will be done in a single 4-hour session, or if they're playing the main character and will need to do 30 sessions to complete the role. With those points in mind, I bring up something that one of the industry defenders brought up in one of the articles that I'm linking to in the description. He stated that it doesn't make sense to put all this effort and money into the voice actors on these games, because they make up less than 0.1% of the overall work on the game. Having done voice work myself, I know that it's a little more than 0.1%. But regardless of whether it's 0.1%, 1%, or 100% of the game, they have a right to a safe and prosperous work environment to further their career in. Now imagine, since the industry seems to believe that voice acting is only 0.1% of a game's worth. Let's imagine what some modern games would be like without voice actors. I don't know about you, but I'd rather see talented voice actors performing those roles, because I strongly believe that performance matters.